Before Apple became a global giant, before the iPhone reshaped the world, before the name Steve Jobs became a symbol of innovation, there was only one thing he mastered first: focus. Jobs believed that extraordinary success comes not from doing more, but from eliminating the unnecessary. His ability to focus with absolute clarity became his first unstoppable habit. It's where our journey begins. Steve often said, "Deciding what not to do is as important as deciding what to do." Most people drown in endless possibilities. Jobs rejected 1,000 good ideas just to focus on one great idea. This discipline to strip away distractions shaped everything he built. It wasn't about having a long to-do list. It was about having one mission, pursued with total intensity. He believed clarity creates power. When your mind is scattered, your potential is scattered. But when your energy narrows into a single direction, things begin to move. Steve trained himself to return again and again to what mattered most. And this made him unstoppable, because a focused mind becomes a weapon. Few people know Steve's secret. He often paced in silence for hours, walking, thinking, reducing chaos inside his mind. Focus was not an accident. It was a practiced habit, a ritual, a daily reset, allowing him to return to the world with sharper vision than anyone else. This focus led to clarity. Clarity led to conviction. And conviction led to creation. Every revolutionary idea started the same way, with Steve removing everything that didn't matter, until only brilliance remained. When employees proudly presented 10 features, Steve asked, "What are the 3 that truly matter?" This wasn't criticism, it was discipline, a demand for clarity. He understood that excellence requires focus, and focus requires ruthless reduction. When employees proudly presented 10 features, Steve asked, "What are the 3 that truly matter?" This wasn't criticism, it was discipline, a demand for clarity. He understood that excellence requires focus, and focus requires ruthless reduction. He built entire empires by focusing on the smallest details. And in doing so, he proved, focused people reshape the world. Think of focus like a flame. Spread your attention too wide, and it dims. Concentrate it, and it becomes powerful enough to change everything. Jobs lived by this truth. In meetings, he demanded simplicity of thought, not because he was demanding, but because he believed the human mind becomes extraordinary when it is undivided. He forced teams to think deeply, not broadly, to refine one idea until it became undeniable. This is how breakthroughs were born at Apple. Steve practiced mindfulness long before it became popular. Meditation helped him quiet the world and sharpen his mind. It saved him from being pulled in every direction. This wasn't spirituality, it was strategy. A focused mind sees opportunities others miss. A focused mind makes powerful decisions. A focused mind becomes unstoppable. He famously lived with little, not because he lacked money, but because he refused clutter in his life. A clean environment created a clean mind. A clean mind created powerful ideas, and powerful ideas created revolutionary products. Steve admired childlike focus. He believed adults lose the ability to concentrate because they try to please too many people. Children, on the other hand, care only about what they love. This purity of focus inspired him to ignore noise, to follow curiosity, to build not with pressure, but with passion. Some of Apple's greatest ideas were born at night, not in chaos, but in calmness. Jobs cultivated an environment where deep work could thrive, where focus wasn't forced but welcomed, where creativity had space to breathe. This habit made genius possible. The Apple logo itself reflected Steve's philosophy. Minimal, clear, focused. A company built on extreme clarity of purpose. Every product and decision flowed from that same focused vision. Simplicity gave him space. Stillness gave him strength. Focus gave him direction. He often said the most powerful tool we have is the ability to say no. Because every yes divides your attention, but every no sharpens it. Steve wanted Apple to be a sanctuary for deep thinkers. a place where brilliance wasn't forced, but refined. This culture of intense focus produced masterpieces, tools that reshaped industries, devices that became extensions of human life, all born from the simplicity of concentrated effort. Jobs wasn't trying to be rude. He was cutting through noise. He wanted the truth. He wanted clarity. He wanted that one idea that could change everything. And he was willing to eliminate anything that stood in its way. Growth doesn't happen in chaos. It happens when energy is directed. Focused effort creates accelerated results. Steve embodied this principle with every decision. He protected his attention fiercely, and in return, his ideas flourished. The iPhone wasn't born from thousands of features. It was born from the elimination of thousands of distractions. Focus created simplicity. Simplicity created usability. Usability created magic. This moment changed history because Steve changed how he used his mind. Focus turns ordinary people into creators. Focus turns creators into innovators. Focus turns innovators into legends. And this was the first habit that made Steve Jobs unstoppable. But there are 5 more, and each one built on the power of the last. Steve Jobs wasn't obsessed with technology. He was obsessed with simplicity, not as an aesthetic, but as a philosophy. He believed simplicity reveals truth. It removes confusion, removes resistance, removes friction. To him, simplicity wasn't less. It was more. It was power. Jobs pushed designers to remove anything unnecessary. If you needed a manual to understand the product, it wasn't simple enough. He insisted that technology should feel natural, intuitive, almost invisible. He didn't want people to understand devices. He wanted devices to understand people. This relentless simplicity became Apple's signature. To Steve, simplicity wasn't emptiness. It was elegance, a confidence that didn't need to shout to be heard. He knew the world is complicated enough. So he built products that brought clarity, not confusion. Peace, not frustration. Ease, not complexity. The original iPod interface had dozens of proposed buttons. Jobs walked in, looked at it once, and said, "No, one wheel, one button, one purpose." That decision shaped the future of digital music. Because simplicity unlocks adoption, and adoption leads to revolution. Jobs didn't simplify things to make them easy. He simplified them to make them beautiful. He demanded clarity, not to reduce work, but to uncover genius buried under layers of complexity. He believed simple solutions required deeper thinking, and he pushed everyone to think deeper. Simplicity is not the absence of complexity, it is the mastery of it. Steve believed that if you truly understand something, you can express it simply. If you can't simplify it, you don't understand it well enough. This belief shaped every Apple product ever made. Even Apple's boxes had to be simple. The unboxing experience mattered deeply to Steve. He wanted the first moment with an Apple product to feel like opening a gift, clean, clear, intentional. He believed simplicity creates emotion, and emotion creates loyalty. This was not design, it was storytelling. Jobs fought fiercely for simplicity in user experience. He rejected cluttered interfaces. He rejected unnecessary steps. He insisted, if it takes more than 3 clicks, it's wrong. This obsession made Apple products loved by millions. It removed friction between humans and machines. It made technology feel humane. Many engineers resisted. They wanted to add more features. Steve wanted fewer, but better. He believed excellence happens through reduction, not addition. He reminded them, simplicity is the ultimate sophistication, and he never compromised. Look at something as simple as a television remote. Dozens of buttons people never use. Steve's version? Minimal, clear, intentional, because he believed every button is a question a user must answer. Fewer buttons means fewer questions, which means a better experience. Simplicity isn't fast. It isn't easy. It requires revisiting the same idea again and again, peeling off layers, challenging assumptions, removing ego. But the result is timeless. Jobs admired Japanese Zen philosophy, the idea that simplicity is purity. He believed in removing everything unneeded, in objects and ideas and in life. He applied this to design, leadership, and even daily living. This clarity of mind helped him innovate. To Steve, design was craftsmanship, not decoration. He wanted every curve, every corner, every pixel to feel deliberate. Simple forms required deeper thought, not less. And this attention to simplicity became Apple's identity. Even in software, simplicity mattered. Complexity leads to bugs. Bugs lead to frustration. Frustration kills trust. Steve pushed engineers to simplify code, just as much as designers simplified hardware. It was simplicity at every level. The iPhone succeeded not because it did everything, but because it removed everything unnecessary. One screen, one button, one interface. This simplicity transformed the phone from a tool into a companion. Even Apple stores embodied simplicity. No clutter, no chaos, just clarity. Space to think, space to breathe, space to explore. Because Steve knew, people think better in simplicity. Simplicity is refinement. It is distillation. It is sculpting away the inessential. Every icon, every interface, every product shell was a journey toward purity. And Steve was the guardian of that journey. The iMac wasn't just a computer. It was a statement, a celebration of clarity, a rejection of complexity. It brought beauty to technology and technology to the everyday person, all because simplicity guided every decision. Simplicity creates focus. Focus creates emotion. Emotion creates connection. Jobs understood that people don't fall in love with features. They fall in love with experiences. And simplicity is what makes experiences unforgettable. This was the second habit that made Steve Jobs unstoppable. He chased simplicity with relentless devotion. Because simplicity reveals truth. It refines brilliance. It builds loyalty. And it brought Apple to the world stage. Steve Jobs believed design was not decoration, but the soul of a product. It wasn't about how something looked, but how it felt, how it behaved, how it connected to people. To him, design was a silent moral language, a promise of quality, intention, and respect for the user. This obsession shaped every Apple breakthrough. Jobs demanded excellence in even the smallest details. If an icon didn't feel right, if a button clicked with the wrong sound, if a corner radius fell off by a millimeter, he pushed the team to try again and again until the product felt like a seamless extension of life itself. This was not obsession, it was craftsmanship. Steve was inspired by artists and architects, not by typical tech engineers. He admired Bauhaus, calligraphy, Japanese minimalism. He saw technology as an artistic canvas, a place where beauty and function merge. This mindset separated him from the entire tech industry. It made him see what others couldn't. Jobs believed the user experience began before the device turned on. The unboxing mattered. The texture of the box, the sound of it opening, the feeling of anticipation. He wanted customers to feel a moment of magic, a moment of presence. Because great design begins with emotion. He could spend hours holding a prototype in silence, feeling its weight, its texture, its balance. He believed great products should feel inevitable, as if no other form made sense. If something felt off, he knew instantly. And he made sure the team knew, too, because almost good was never enough. Jobs pushed materials to their limits. Plastic wasn't just plastic. It had to feel smooth, warm, and human. Glass wasn't just glass. It had to feel like touching the future. Aluminum wasn't metal. It was sculpture. He believed materials carried emotion, and emotion shapes loyalty. While the world made computers for engineers, Steve made them for humans. He wanted them to be friendly, approachable, even fun. This human-centered design philosophy is why Apple became loved, not just used. Jobs designed for the soul, not the specification sheet. Scrolling had to feel like water. Buttons had to feel alive. Animations had to feel organic. Jobs knew the human brain responds to beauty and flow. He made technology feel human. He made digital interaction feel like a touch of art. This was his genius. When Steve introduced the iMac, he broke every design rule in the industry. Computers were beige, boring, lifeless. Steve made them joyful, colorful, playful, inviting. He believed technology should spark joy, and his products did exactly that. Steve's obsession wasn't with design, but with experience. He wanted products that made people feel powerful, capable, connected, inspired. He didn't want technology to intimidate. He wanted it to empower. That emotional connection changed everything. Jobs asked the hard questions. He cut through ego, noise, and assumptions. If a feature didn't make the experience better, it didn't belong. He forced everyone to think deeper, to find the truth behind every design decision. This intensity created brilliance. He insisted products should feel alive. They should have personality, warmth, charm. Every product should feel like it had been touched by human hands. Crafted, not manufactured. This emotional approach created legendary devices. Because when technology feels alive, we bond with it, and we never forget it. Jobs understood the psychological weight of typography. He knew fonts affect emotion, clarity, trust. He cared about the shape of letters, as much as the shape of devices. Every font in Apple products was chosen with intention. Because design is not one thing. It's everything. Steve didn't want users to think. He wanted them to feel. The click wheel wasn't chosen for convenience. It was chosen because it felt right. Because great design communicates without words. It feels intuitive, natural, effortless. That is true user experience. Every product was a personal reflection of his soul, a blend of art, philosophy, and engineering. He once said, "Design is not how it looks, it's how it works." And he meant every word. His obsession with design wasn't superficial. It was foundational. It made him unstoppable. Steve believed that technology should be inclusive. If your grandparents couldn't use it, it wasn't designed well enough. This empathy shaped Apple's user experience. He built devices not for experts, but for everyone. This is how Apple won hearts worldwide. Jobs believed the inside of a product should be as beautiful as the outside. Even the parts customers never see had to be crafted with care. This wasn't perfectionism. It was integrity, a commitment to excellence at every layer. Jobs was a sculptor of experiences. He carved away complexity. He polished every detail. He shaped technology with the patience of an artist. And like all great artists, he wasn't creating products. He was creating feelings. Before the iPhone, phones were tools. After the iPhone, phones became extensions of humanity. This shift didn't happen by accident. It happened through relentless dedication to design, a belief that beauty and simplicity should live at the center of innovation. This belief changed the world. Design was Steve Jobs' third unstoppable habit. Not just design of objects, but design of experiences, emotions, and connections. He elevated technology into an art form. And through this obsession, he created a new standard for the world. A standard built on beauty, clarity, and humanity. This is where Steve Jobs' habits truly live, inside those who dare to create. Every sketch is a seed of potential. Every idea is a spark waiting for the right habits to ignite it. You don't need brilliance to begin, just intention and discipline. Jobs showed that greatness grows from consistent effort. What you build now can change everything later. This is where Steve Jobs' habits truly live, inside those who dare to create. Every sketch is a seed of potential. Every idea is a spark waiting for the right habits to ignite it. You don't need brilliance to begin, just intention and discipline. Jobs showed that greatness grows from consistent effort. What you build now can change everything later. Jobs believed teams should work with the intensity of artists, not completing tasks, but crafting masterpieces. When you surround yourself with people who care deeply, magic happens. Teams don't need to be large, they need to be aligned. Shared obsession fuels unstoppable progress. This unity is what built Apple. He demanded excellence, but he inspired it too. Jobs had the rare ability to awaken greatness in others. He challenged people to think bigger, push harder, imagine deeper. He never accepted limits, so neither did his teams. Leadership is not about authority, but about ignition. He lit fires everywhere he went. Steve Jobs' focus teaches us to simplify our ambitions. Not everything deserves your attention, only what changes your life. Clarity is power. When you chase fewer goals, you accomplish more. Success grows from intentional action, not endless effort. Choose your priorities like your future depends on them, because it does. Jobs taught his teams that the experience begins before the product is touched. Presentation matters. Atmosphere matters. Feeling matters. These details are not small. They shape the user's memory. When you treat your work with reverence, others will too. This evolution wasn't random. It was intentional, guided by habits of vision, focus, and perfection. Jobs built a lineage, not just a company. Every product carried his fingerprints. This is what habits do. They echo across time. They shape the world long after the hands that created them are gone. You don't need all the answers right now. Jobs didn't have them either when he began in a garage. What matters is the commitment to begin and then to persist. Your first step is the birth of your legacy. Your habits give it strength, and your belief gives it direction. Jobs understood the value of uninterrupted thought. Great ideas need space, quiet, focused space. In a noisy world, silence becomes a superpower. Your mind sharpens. Your creativity spikes. Your genius awakens when distractions disappear. Despite his intensity, Jobs valued simplicity in his personal life. He understood that clearing physical clutter clears mental clutter. Minimalism sharpened his focus on what truly mattered. Not possessions, but purpose. Not comfort, but creativity. This simplicity fueled his unstoppable clarity. Jobs transformed presentations into unforgettable moments. He spoke with emotional clarity and unwavering belief. When you speak from passion, people feel it. When you embody your idea, people trust it. Your voice becomes a bridge to your future, and courage becomes your silent ally. Jobs wasn't unstoppable because he never failed. He was unstoppable because he never stopped. He learned from every setback, transformed every mistake into wisdom, turned every rejection into refinement. Failure was his sculptor, and persistence was his masterpiece. Think different was more than a slogan. It was a declaration, a reminder that innovation comes from the brave, the curious, the misfits. Jobs built a culture where bold ideas were celebrated. He believed those who dare to see the world differently change it. Your uniqueness is your power. Never trade it for acceptance. Every great creation ends with the same feeling, fulfillment. Not because the journey was easy, but because it was meaningful. Jobs chased meaning, not comfort. He worked from fire, not pressure. And that fire illuminated industries. Your fire can illuminate your life. This ovation represents more than applause. It represents the impact of a lifetime fueled by simple, powerful habits. Vision, focus, perfection, discipline. These habits turn a college dropout into a world-changing icon. His lessons didn't end with him. They live in every entrepreneur seeking greatness, every dreamer willing to put in the work, every creator brave enough to push boundaries. You don't need to be Steve Jobs. You only need to awaken the Steve Jobs within you. Jobs' habits became universal tools for success. They transcend industries, cultures, and generations. Because greatness follows patterns, and those patterns begin with daily discipline. What you choose to do today shapes your tomorrow. Your habits write your future. Your journey will not mirror his, but it will matter just as deeply. Walk with intention. Create with heart. Focus without compromise. Persist despite resistance. This is how unstoppable legacies are born. This apple represents more than a company. It represents possibility. What can happen when habits are harnessed? Jobs didn't have superpowers. He had convictions. He had discipline, and he honored them every day. These 6 habits shaped Steve Jobs into a force the world could not ignore. They can shape you too, if you choose them daily. Greatness is not destiny. It is discipline. Success is not luck. It is intention. Your habits determine your future. So choose the habits of the unstoppable.